Good morning and welcome to day 3, session 7. We'll be starting this today's session with Anuchan sir joining us from Sunnyway. I welcome you to join the session, sir. So, as
Thank you. Yeah.
right. So I hope today we are going to have great session starting with Anuchan speaking about what technology is doing in education. A small brief about Anuchan. Anuchan HV is a design verification engineer working at Microsoft Sunnyvale, California. He has completed his Master of Science in Electrical and Computer Engineering from Georgia Institute of Technology, Atlanta, Georgia. And he did his Bachelor of Technology in Electrical and Electronics Engineering from NIT. I think NIT being the reputed institute, we really take pride in having speaker from there. NIT Surathkal, India. And when I was looking into his profile, I also found that Anuchan sir has also contributed to the teaching sector by being the graduate teaching assistant with the Georgia Institute of Technology, Atlanta, Georgia. Something interesting I saw, probably we might not understand that much of technical profile what he has shared. It is really, great to see all those things, me being from tech side. He has worked as a research intern at Indian Institute of Science, Nama Bengaluru.
Uh,
You have great interest in traveling and thanks. I think people like you should come back and contribute some knowledge, right? So welcome to the session, Anuchan.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you for having me.
I think we can just go ahead with the session.
Sure. Let me start sharing. Let me know if everything's in order. Okay, great. Um, so let's get started here. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Um, so here today, I'd like to share my thoughts on how digital technology is shaping the future of education. Um, So I guess Professor has already been generous in her praise and already introduced me and about where I'm from, what my background is. So I currently work at Microsoft. Fair disclaimer throughout this topic, throughout this talk, I'm going to be talking about a lot of Microsoft products, but with no intention of marketing them. Just that I am familiar with those products, and I'm sure those translate really well to the industry trends as well. So bear with me while I show you quite a few Microsoft products and what is happening in the industry to sort of maybe contribute or tell you about what I know is happening in the tech sector in the education field. So nothing much to add here. Guess we can get started. So before we get into what we're going to discuss and how I just wanted to make sure all of us understand the scope of the discussion here, where there are two main parts to the discussion. Where one we discuss where we say education. This is sort of like a big umbrella itself, say school, college, and university education. I just want to make clear here that we were trying to have sort of like a bigger umbrella where all kinds of education is sort of and at different levels are under the purview of education tech, so that all of the attendees, whichever field they might be from, can sort of draw at least some inputs from this and then reapply them to their own fields and topics. Digital technology, it's quite pedestrian already, the framing, but it is sort of a catch-all phrase for any computerized device, method, or a system. So we're trying to look at how in this day and age where we all know how ubiquitous digital technology is, affects or is going to affect in the future, is going to help in most ways, school, college, and university education. Well, like Professor shared about my background, I graduated pretty recently from my master's program It's been about a year since I started working. So I find myself at sort of an interesting juncture where I have used a lot of education tech while I was studying, say, in my undergrad and my grad studies. And since the past year or so, I have been on the other side, sort of developing these methods, or at least aiding them while working at Microsoft. So it is an interesting juncture for me to sort of talk about this topic because very recently I have used them, and then now I'm on the other side where I have sort of this view of how they're developed and even deployed in different fields for that matter. Uh, just to sort of outline the all the topics we're going to talk about today. First, we'll start off with why technology in education. This I am hoping that none of you need convincing uh, in this topic, but in this question, I'm pretty sure all of you have the answers too. But for the sake of a good flow, we'd like to go into that. Then we talk about democratizing quality learning material for students. And then we'd go into a very interesting topic called the gamification of education, right? Where we use game design elements in education to make it more engaging, to make it more practical, to make it more interesting, so that the tech-savvy kids of today are sort of hooked on to education as much as they are to social media. So that is a very interesting topic we're going to talk about. And the fourth point here is pretty cool. Again, it is about virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality for education. We're going to look at what sort of technology is out there, how it can be used for education, and yeah, I'm gonna tell you about a few of the products Microsoft is working on in this space as well. Artificial intelligence is sort of the keyword of the 21st century, right? You hear about artificial intelligence everywhere. Hopefully, I'll try to give you all a very layman sort of a view of the engineering behind artificial intelligence. And then maybe let's look at how it can be used in education. It already is, and maybe in the future as well. So we want to look at that. So all these topics sort of outline the major trends as of now, but whatever does not fall under this umbrella, we're going to look at the tech tools for education later on, and then we have the enabling factors of online tutoring services, and these sorts of tech also sort of enable how we sort of use tech in education. Then at the end, hopefully we're going to talk about, and I hope this part is more interactive, where all of you can chime in, where we talk about the socio-cultural implications of use of tech in education. I'm not too sure how I want to. I mean, for the most part, I am going to be introducing you guys to concepts. I'm going to be showing you mostly cases or examples where these concepts are already in use in the out there. And questions, feel free to paste them in the chat window. And I think the moderator is gonna sort of take care of them. We'll definitely have a Q&A session towards the end of the session, but feel free to type in your questions as and when I go through the material. Um, Cool. Let's go into the first slide. Yeah, I would like to make it interactive, obviously. So feel free to type in the questions. And Professor, if you can sort of pull those questions, we can have maybe a look at them once every 20 minutes or so, so that.
What I'll do is around 25-30 minutes, once you are catching with the flow, if there are any questions, I will just alert you towards those questions, or any comments. Please put in your comments and questions in the chat box. I'll be there. Thank you.
Good, Professor. Uh, so yeah, fair disclaimer: I'm not a subject matter expert in this field, but sure, let's see how it goes, and hopefully we can learn together. Uh, so this part, like I said, hopefully enough you need convincing. But if all of you, I guess most of you might be academics right here, and if you really need proof from the published work, then here it is, where it really says that it's pretty clear that when technology is in use in education, students learn more in less time. They like their classes, they have more positive attitude towards these classes. These students, their understanding improved consistently why with using education, with using technology. And it also nudges teaching practices where there is more cooperative group work rather than solely on, say, monologues or the lecturing model. So it's pretty clear to all of us, I hope, that technology, uh, even though it can be conflicting at times, is for the most part very useful. Studies have proved this time and again in the education setting, where students' response and the teachers' responses have been overwhelmingly positive about the use of technology in education. I've picked up four of these findings from the paper you can find in the reference below. So hopefully this did not need much convincing. I'm going to dive into the first major topic I'm going to talk about, and sort of the implication, I would say, uh, of sort of democratizing quality learning material. Uh, we all of us have had personal experiences, I'm sure, where we want to learn something, but we do not have access to the best material out there. And it is fairly obvious that this is going to limit our understanding of the concepts or the theory, or the skills we gain are not going to be up to standard if the learning material we are using is not of the highest quality. Uh, so access to high quality lectures will only augment the in classroom learning experience. So whatever we might already be using, maybe it may be in terms of our day-to-day classes, or say learning at work or anything, access to high quality lectures and learning material is only going to augment and sort of make more efficient our learning process. Uh, there have been a few things which have been enabling factors for the democratizing of quality learning material, and a few of them have been the ease of internet access, where say one of the universities in the world has the best course, or one of the highly reputed professors teaching one of the courses. Now, due to the ubiquitous use of internet and the affordable edge computing devices that we have, which may be your phones or your laptops, they have enabled you to get access to that high quality learning material fairly easily. So an interesting trend in the industry nowadays has been where MNCs like Google and Facebook are now saying it doesn't matter where you learn from, right? Like it's just that our employees need to have the relevant skills to sort of contribute to the workplace. So that way, when you democratize quality learning material, and the industry is saying it does not matter where you learn from, these two factors in unison mean that uh, if you have access to good quality learning material, if you improve your skills, you're definitely going to end up with good jobs, and have sort of an impact and be able to do impactful work. Furthermore, it is clear that these technology, just in general, and even giving access to quality material to a wide range of students and teachers across the country is going to break barriers of, say, geography, economy, or even social status. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter how rich or poor you are, as long as, of course, you can afford the learning material, and your social status, your race, your race, caste, creed, gender, nothing matters as long, and you get access to good quality education. So tech has enabled this. So this has been solely, I would say, a huge social implication of democratizing quality learning material. Uh, this is going to be sort of the theme for the entirety of this session, where I introduce all of you to sort of these overarching ideas, and then I list out a few cases where these ideas are used. And hopefully that you look at these ideas, and then you go back to your day-to-day jobs, and then you are able to sort of at least adapt one or two of these ideas at least. That would be a real win for this seminar. So one of the platforms all of you might have heard of is Coursera, and they're a huge champion of democratizing quality learning material. They started off with a huge part of their course content being free. These course content were of really high quality. They were from the top universities in the world. The best of the professors were teaching these courses, and they were made free for most of the courses on Coursera were free for the most part. Uh, so it was started by Stanford professors Andrew Ng and Daphne Kohler. If A fair amount of trivia here is that Andrew Ng is one of the pioneers of deep learning. It is one of the fields of artificial intelligence. So he's not only contributed massively to artificial intelligence, but also has created this gem of a tool on the internet where you have a wide variety of courses. So, in the interest of all of you, I think all of you should really check out this course from Yale, which is called Science of Well-being. Nothing to do with tech, nothing to do with education. It is just about how to really live a life to the fullest. And this is a very popular course across the world. A very unique approach to teaching this course. I really recommend all of you to check it out. Courses on Coursera range from topics like these to workforce upskilling programs for companies like Google and IBM. So really, really tech oriented courses to courses which really enhance your well-being. I'm sure for a lot of the management folks on this seminar, a lot of business related courses as well. And a lot of them are free, at least for you to audit them, meaning that if you're not paying for it, you obviously do not get access to the tests or the assignments and so on and so forth, but just the lectures are mostly free on this course. So great tool for everyone out there. Really, really shatters the barriers of not having quality learning material. And if any of you were tricked into thinking that these were only online courses, the trend nowadays has been that they offer bachelor's and master's degrees too. And it might come as a surprise to most of you, but these bachelor's and master's degrees are held in fairly high regard in the industry today. Would not say they're at par with say the in-person ones, but they're still well regarded. And yeah, so overall a great tool. Coursera, really highly recommend all of you to check it out, irrespective of what field you work in. The second while the previous one was sort of like mostly a free version of a tool where you can go, you can take classes and so on and so forth. Uh, LinkedIn Learning, on the other hand, has sort of like a subscription based model. So LinkedIn, again, going back to my disclaimer where I said I'll talk about a few Microsoft products. This is the first of them, many more to come. So this has a subscription-based model. You can think of this as like a Netflix of courses, right? So you pay for a subscription and you get access to this entire suite of courses on the website. The courses typically fall into these three categories, maybe ones which they call creative, ones which they call technology, and another business, I think, if I recollect right. So these are broadly the three categories which you can find courses for. If anyone of you is not aware of LinkedIn, then it is this professional networking website, and they have a sub product which is called LinkedIn Learning. Uh, Again, highly recommend. It was founded as lynda.com, and then that company was then acquired by LinkedIn in 2015, and then Microsoft now acquired LinkedIn in December 2016. Although LinkedIn still operates independently, but officially Microsoft owns LinkedIn. Uh, so yeah, the advantages of these sorts of platforms are numerous. One, obviously, the most important of them being that you get access to high quality content. But I think something like a subscription model based LinkedIn Learning gives you personalized recommendations where you do a course and then you like it, you sort of upvote it, or you say you recommend it to your friends. It notices the courses that you've done. It knows the kind of job you're doing. It knows your age profile. It knows where you are in the world. All these factors put together, it will have a pool of, say, people with similar interests, similar age, similar jobs, and it has data about what they found useful. It is going to suggest those kinds of courses to you. So really, really sort of a powerful tool to sort of keep in touch with what is trending in your field, because this tool has access to data from your peers in the same field as and across fields as well. Of course, there's a small matter of even doing courses on your own time, unlike the traditional college-based courses where you're constrained by what time those classes are, or even attending classes. Uh, you can do these courses on your own time. So I guess really helpful for working professionals, where you can really just look at this when you're on your way to work. Just listen to audio transcripts on your way to work, listen to podcasts on your way to work. So yeah, really powerful tool in all for uh, uh, for working professionals, where you have the learning component as well as the professional networking component, which is sort of given to you by LinkedIn itself. So yeah, these two tools really powerful. Everyone can make use of them. Highly recommend that all of you check it out. Um, Great. So that was the first point, first section, which I said we're going to talk about. The next one, this is a really interesting one, right? If there is one topic from this entire seminar that I would like to really focus on, really make sure that all of you take home from, is this one. So gamification of education, right? So gamification technically is just using these sorts of game design elements and these components of games where uh, or concepts you use in games and you apply them to non-game contexts, right? So this is a really powerful tool, and this can be done with or without the use of technology, but technology definitely makes it more meaningful and powerful. So what are these game design elements that we're talking about, right? So if you typically play any game for that matter, let it be a video game, let it be say an outdoor sport, or let it be a board game, anything. these a few of these listed here are the elements which you will find in any of the games, being points, badges, leaderboards, performance graphs, meaningful stories, avatars, and teammates. So points, I don't think I have to go into much detail about that. You perform certain action in a game, you get a certain number of points, which often lead to you accumulating a certain number of points and determining a winner, so on and so forth. Badges, I would like to give you like the example of where like much like how kindergarten teachers give students say golden stars or sort of these basically golden stars for their homework. Say you got 5 stars or 6 stars. These are essentially badges, right? Where you get these sort of uh, uh, say badges or sort of these symbols of your achievement, where you achieve something and then you're given this sort of like a trophy or a badge or a sort of like a sticker to sort of commemorate your achievement. So that is one of the game design concepts. Leaderboards are where your performance is compared to the performance of others. So you'll find this in most sports. Like you have even say in something like the Indian Premier League or the IPL, you have different teams and there's the leaderboard, right? Essentially the points table is the leaderboard. It is where one team's performance is compared with everyone else's. So this is typical of most games where your performance is compared to performance of others. While the leaderboards compare your performance with others' performance graphs track one person's or one team's performance over a length of time. These are more, while leaderboards might inculcate in people a sense of competition, performance graphs help you track how your progress has changed over time. Meaningful stories or storylines are part of every game. Say you played something like Monopoly or a business. There are storylines there, or they're more common in video games as well, where you are a particular character and you go through the game and you have a meaningful storyline. Avatars are again, you have different avatars. You can sort of role play as different characters in games, and of course, you have multiplayer games where you have teammates. This sort of builds a sense of collaboration. Um, so these are definitely not an exhaustive list of all game design elements, but these are some of the popular ones and some of the ones we can relate to in most of the games all of us would have played. Um, so the interesting thing being now, how do we apply? So all of us can relate to and understand that games are interesting, right? Games are engaging. Games bring out the competitive spirit in us. Games sort of get us. They help us sort of work harder, right? I mean, we want to win. They bring out the competitive side to us. So the interesting point here being, how do we bring out or how do we employ these game design elements in an educational setting? And we have empirical knowledge, we have observational knowledge that employing these elements do work in the educational setting. We can rely on literature out there, we can rely on things which a few examples that I'm going to show you, they all sort of overwhelmingly and unanimously sort of scream out that gamification in education does have positive effects. Once we are convinced about that, we can now look at few of the ways in which gamification has happened in education, and hopefully, if not in the same way, in each of your walks of life, you can employ a few of these methods or tactics to make life a little bit more interesting, right? So the first one, first example I have here, I'd like to sort of throw back to this paperclip animation in Microsoft Word. I'm sure most of you would have seen this. It was called Clippy, I think. So it used to sort of bring up these interactive messages and things like that. Whenever you were to open any Microsoft Office product, and it would help you around with options and things like that. I'm not sure if many of you have had visibility to this game, but Microsoft released this game called Ribbon Hero 2, where the protagonist is Clippy, and he goes on, and it is a game where Clippy goes on to show you how to use all the features or most of the features in the Office Productivity Suite to help train people to use it effectively. So highly encourage all of you to check out some videos on this game, and it's a really interesting concept where you have this tool and you need to teach people to learn it, right? Do you sort of make an exhaustive sort of a white page and then give it to them and then expect the user to read it, or do you instead create this interesting game to help people learn? Microsoft has time and again said that the Ribbon Hero 2 has been one of the most successful ideas which has come out of their Office team. And this says a lot because they've done a lot of good work over the years. So this speaks volumes about how a game can help people learn effectively. Uh, in recent times, it's also been seen in the U.S. here that the New York City Department of Education has, and I believe that the Bill and the Melinda Gates Foundation is also funding this initiative where they make where they have the center. Um, and there is this huge emphasis on making education more engaging and relevant to modern children who are very tech savvy. Um, all in all, if any of you are still not convinced, the effectiveness of gamification can be attributed to enhanced engagement and interactivity with the content, right? So rather than kids spending wasteful hours on games which do not teach them, rather make games which will help in their education and embrace the idea of games, right? Rather than saying games are an utter waste of time, because clearly they are helpful and are being used in a huge way in the industry. A few more cases here. Hopefully, this might be helpful to a few of our academics on the seminar where, like I said, Khan Academy, one of the popular online tutoring platforms, again, provide award students with badges, right? Like I mentioned again, this is a sort of a throwback to when we used to get gold stickers in kindergarten when we used to do our homework, and that gave, as I'm pretty sure that feeling still remains in most of us, maybe not with gold stars, but with other forms of honors, right? Where we would like to be sort of recognized for our achievements. And this will have a positive reinforcement effect in students, where you collect these points and badges to sort of track progress and encourage sort of working hard and sort of accumulating these. Uh, this is one idea which can easily be sort of inculcated in all walks of life. Very common in games where you have players of different, where you sort of gain levels as you gain mastery. Similar ideas can be employed to say homework or assignments or tests and so on and so forth. Furthermore, again, an example with sort of a lower primary sort of an education in mind, where a professor has used the Nintendo. It's another gaming console for those of you who are not aware. Uh, Among other technology into his daily curriculum, right? So this is another example where instead of saying no, these sorts of gaming consoles are a distraction, no, let's not use them, they're just distracting kids. Rather, this is a totally sort of a diametrically opposite sort of a view where people are saying no, the technology at its core itself is very helpful, is very useful. Let's just find ways in which we can make productive use of this technology, right? So these are very promising success stories for games in education. Uh, so, like to introduce to you a couple of cases here about gamification and how it's being used in the education sector. Again, the hope for me that when I introduce to you all of these different examples, hopefully, is that uh, some of at least all of you can draw from at least some of these cases and take back to your walks of life, right? Rather than going on and on about how games work or say going to the technical details, I'd like to give you the tools to go ahead and explore later on after this session, and hopefully come away with things you can use later on. So this is a very interesting uh, story of this young girl from India, who has become this sort of a pioneer in how Minecraft can be used for education. I'm not sure how many of you have seen this video, which I'll play in a bit. So Minecraft is a world building game. So you essentially build worlds. What I mean by that is you can build a world, you can build the Egyptian civilization, you can build literally anything. There's no limit. The limit is your imagination, right? So you build worlds in Minecraft. It is another game which is owned by Microsoft. I'd like to show you guys this video of this young girl from India who's made big news all over the world. In fact, about I mean, she's used Minecraft, and then now she's a huge proponent and sort of champion of Minecraft in schools. So let me shift to that video.
One day, my mother gave me her laptop for a project in my school, and I saw something called Minecraft. I thought, what is this? First, I only used to think that it's just for playing, but then I understood how it can be used further. I created the Egyptian civilization in Minecraft because I thought that a child thinks it is quite boring reading the lessons through the book. But I thought that this also enhances the visual aspect of the child and he finds it interesting. I have mentored students in our school, teachers in our city, state, country, and various educators across the globe also, namely countries like Finland, Russia, Vietnam, Thailand, and many more. I believe that each one can teach 10, and those 10 can teach more other people who will educate other people, and then there will be no one left in this planet who is not educated.
Yep, a nice video there. Really refreshing to see a young girl who speaks so highly about the influence tech can have on education. Really promising signs. Really heartwarming to see uh, such sort of wise words from her. But also, yeah, really powerful game. It allows you to build anything you can think of. Like I said, you're really only restricted by what you can think of, right? Your imagination. Uh, Problem solving, resource use optimization, in the sense that there are challenging so really powerful game where you have there can be very challenging problems where you're given a certain a restricted number of resources, and then you're supposed to build something. You optimize your resource utilization. You can literally build journeys through the game. It might seem sort of like a very kiddish game, or even restricted to young kids, but trust me, with the right sort of a world in Minecraft. It is engaging for people of all ages. So say you're having an event in your college, right? And in these times where it's a virtual event, you can have these events on Minecraft, right? Where your participants have their own avatars. They go into conference rooms, they go into breakout rooms, they talk to people. So it is a virtual world of its own, and you can build such settings. You can have people interact there. You can have you have these discussions in say a classroom environment. You can have a Minecraft world where all of them coexist there. They sort of use the limited resources they have, work together, build something, work towards a common goal. So a lot of possibilities. Again, highly encourage all of you to go check out this game. It really has far-reaching implications into how we can interact in a virtual setting, specifically relevant in these times where we are all sort of. I mean, at least I guess sort of some sort of normalcy is back in India, but yeah, again, very relevant when people interact uh, in a virtual setting. So that was one very interesting video. I have a couple more videos in quick succession. So I'll show you guys these videos, and then don't have anything else after that. So the second case is of a Microsoft adaptive controller. So all of you might have heard of these gaming consoles called Xbox. So these consoles help people play games, video games essentially, and Microsoft manufactures this console called the Xbox. These consoles typically have controllers which are geared towards the normal population, right? For people who do not have disabilities, or whose all of their motor skills are intact, all of their fingers are functioning normally. But there's been a special drive and a special push to make technology accessible to people with disabilities as well. And this is one of the huge wins for Microsoft and the tech industry as a whole, where they've made a mainstream controller which people with disabilities can use and game just like all of us can. So I'll just go ahead and show you guys this video.
My name is Grover.
Sean, my name is Ian.
I'm Taylor.
My name is Owen, and I am 9.5 years old.
I only have one. And yeah,
I love video games, my friends, my family, and again, video games.
Whenever I play it, it makes me feel happy.
the fun that you get to have with connecting with your friends. You make your own rules?
It's his way of interacting with his friends when he can't physically otherwise do it.
When I'm playing with a regular controller, there's some things that don't work for me.
It's difficult for me to use both joysticks and the D-pad at the exact same time.
And it just slowed me down a bunch more, while other people were like...
She's never had the freedom to play at the level she knows she could.
I never thought it was unfair. I just thought, hey, this is the way it is and it's not going to change.
What I like about the adaptive controller is that now everyone can play.
I don't even have to look at the controller and just be like looking at the screen like, hey, yep.
You never want your kid to feel like an outsider or an other.
One of the biggest fears early on is, how will Owen be viewed by the other kids? He's not different when he plays.
It's a little challenging, but that's the whole point of gaming. I can hit the buttons just as fast as they can. And I think I can crush my friends.
No matter how your body is or how fast you are, you can play. It's a really good thing to have in this world.
So yeah, a very poignant and a very touching video. One of my favorite ads, if I can call it that. about how we really can be inclusive about the tech we create in the education sector, right? Most of our curriculum, most of the tech we have today, most of our educational systems are solely geared towards people without disabilities. But it is important to sort of highlight here that, and this has been luckily this has been a theme across the world where people stand up and say inclusion is not optional, right? So education tech is going in the right direction, in my view, where uh, people with disabilities are being included, and they get to have the mainstream experiences that most of us take for granted day in and day out. So yeah, really amazing how technology has had such sort of great implications in all these sorts of areas. Um, this is the last one where I show you guys. I have more videos in this section because a lot of cool stuff happening here, very interesting stuff. So we talked about Minecraft as one of the cases. We talked about the adaptive controller, where people with disabilities are being included. They are being given equal chance to participate in games in all sorts of settings. Like I would like to make clear that even though these adaptive controllers and these ads were shown in a purely recreational and a fun sort of gaming setting, we need these kinds of technologies to be able to include people with disabilities into this ever-changing educational sector where a lot of new technology is coming in, right? So these kinds of inclusive technologies are important for education. Um, so this is the final case, I think, yes, for technology for gamification. Yeah, so that was another very well made sort of a video about the Microsoft Flight Simulator. The point I wanted to drive here, if some of you were tricked into thinking those were real world visuals, they aren't. They are in-game visuals. They're all sort of graphics created for the game. But that is the quality of graphics we are at in terms of games now, where they're so realistic that we are often tricked into thinking they might be real world visuals. So Microsoft Flight Simulator, the in terms of the education, the point I was trying to drive here is that a lot of simulators are out there in the industry now, which go into great depth into the functioning of real world systems. Say Microsoft Flight Simulator, for example, goes into great depth, and it gives you a solid idea of how you navigate an airplane, you take off, you land. I don't know if any of you guys noticed, but you have control of the cockpit as well, where the buttons and the functionality is exactly the same as you would have on these different flights. You can choose to fly different kinds of flights as well on the game. So pretty realistic sort of a simulator you got there, which can be used sort of in training pilots and so on and so forth. So these kinds of games um, give access to sort of environments or systems which you in the real world would not have access to, right? So through the game, you sort of become a pilot right away, and you start to fly a plane and so on and so forth. A lot of such simulators are out there for different applications. Of course, this is one of them. One of the ones I'm aware of because of the work Microsoft is doing here. But really, games have come a really long way. And as sort of a concluding remark for this section, I would say we really have to give them a chance in our day-to-day lives, and really harness the potential they have to improve our everyday experience. Um, Let me just have a quick check on the time. Oh, wow, we are 1 hour in. I guess I'll have to speed up a little bit. So here we have virtual, augmented, and mixed reality for education. Uh, a quick clarification about what each of these means. So virtual reality means users are fully in an artificial digital environment. Augmented reality is where you have these virtual objects in a real world environment, and mixed reality is where you have virtual worlds in the real world environment, and you can interact with both the virtual and the real world objects. So the virtual reality, an example might be something like a virtual reality application on each of your smartphones. Just pop that into these head mounts or cardboards, very inexpensive ones. You get Google Cardboard, might be something like 500 or 1,000 rupees. You pop that in, you pop the phone into that, and then
Yeah. Let
the
me take the
question.
question for him.
Yep.
We would like to have the speaker's view on blended learning whenever you feel appropriate. What would be the additional skills needed by the faculty for this for blended learning? Can you throw some light on it, or would you like to answer them? And there are much appreciation for the videos and the concepts there. Yeah.
So I guess your voice is breaking
And
up a bit,
the
Professor,
Swift,
but
Swift app is an example which is that's on the projects like. So
all
I
right.
would like to know something about how exactly blended learning helps.
Both online and offline.
Can you repeat, Professor? You want my views on how a blended learning, in the sense that something with, say, mixed virtual or augmented reality is going to help students? Is that the question?
Yeah, that's what is.
Okay. So typically, I mean, I'm not sure what field the question the person who posed the question is from, but just in terms of my background, in terms of engineering, if I had to speak, then you have concepts where you need visualizing of 2D or 3D objects, right? These are often quite abstract and very hard to visualize on a 2D platform. Whereas if you have these 3D visualizing tools which use virtual, augmented, or mixed, any of these realities, then it is fairly obvious that visual cues plus audio cues are going to be far more effective than just audio and say 2D cues, right? Where you have different views of the 3D object, where you can sort of dissect it. You can see cross-sectional views of what you're looking at. This has far-reaching implications. I'm sure it's easy to imagine in, say, engineering or in medicine, even, where, say, someone's studying the anatomy of the body, and possibly in the future, if this technology gets good, we don't even have to dissect real bodies, right? You have this sort of a model, a digital model, and then you can dissect it millions of times, even without having to interact with a single body, or so on and so forth. I mean, they surely won't replace what you do with this with the real human body, because at the end of the day, that is their job and that's what they're going to do. But it is definitely going to augment or sort of add to a more efficient learning process, in my view.
Yeah, thank you, Anuchan. So that was indeed to the point, and I think Aurora sir is, convinced with that point. And I think blended learning is something which is, happening since few years, but because of COVID, we are pushed to, go for it, because until 10 months, people were thinking like, let's stick to the traditional method.
Mhm.
I think now there is more possibility to explore, like what are these options which you're sharing. It's great that you bought all these concepts. Thank you, Anuchan. Please go ahead.
Sure, Professor. I'll try to go over the slides very quickly, and then we can have more of these questions. I guess there'll be more value for everyone involved if we have a discussion. Quickly going on, we have, like I said, virtual, mixed, and augmented reality. And I guess I use the points here, right, where um, the question was, what is their appeal, and what is the use? So one is, it is engaging. I'm sure all of you, as academics or in all of your fields, you see that the younger generation is more tech savvy and arguably has a lesser span of attention, more impatient, things like this. So I guess the challenge is to make it more engaging and sort of even addictive in a good way, to cater to the modern generation. So it's all purpose. It interacts with environments which are not accessible in the real world, like how I showed you with
Your
the mic.
slide needs to go on full mode, Anuchan.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me know. Um, so yeah, you can interact with environments you're not accessible in the real world. And like I said, visual plus auditory cues are definitely more effective together. So if you have a professor teaching you, you have his audio coming through, but you also have, say, a sort of a mixed or augmented viewing of the concept, then I believe that that is going to be more effective for a student. Um, so we have cases for mixed virtual and augmented reality. I just want to let you guys know what is out there in the industry. What sort of tools do we have to actually use this? So Microsoft has this product called HoloLens. It is a head-mounted gear. Looks sort of like a huge sunglasses, like a huge pair of sunglasses. A lot of tech goes into it. It is based on these hologram. It generates these holograms, and the applications are very far-reaching, where you can visualize. So when you put on these specs, you see objects literally pop up as holograms, right? So you can use this to visualize 3D geometry in classes. You can use this on, say, in an industry, on an automation chain. If you have different products going through, you can visualize that. If you have some sort of a mechanic who's putting together parts, he can use sort of a 3D blueprint. The imagination is the boundary for how a HoloLens can be used, right? We also have Sky for HoloLens. For the benefit of time, I'm not going to show you guys this video. Essentially, if two people wearing HoloLenses interact via Skype, then you can see all that is around in one person's environment, right? It is not restricted to what your laptop camera is showing you. So if you're wearing a HoloLens, your HoloLens has view of the entire surrounding, the entirety of the room that you're in, and the person whom you're interacting with also has that view. So more realistic interaction in a virtual setting, and a very powerful tool in that sense. I'm pretty sure all of you would have seen holograms if you watched any science fiction movies. You see these sort of non-tangible light fields which pop up out of, say, a horizontal light array. So you have these light fields which pop up, and they look very real. They can be of, say, people or objects or animals and so on and so forth. There's the technology is mature enough to give those models color, texture, depth, and parallax, everything. So basically, it looks like a real world object. Pretty sure if any of you watch sci-fi movies, you would have come across this. If not, very cool concept. Encourage you to go look at it later. Um, so again, let's. This was the other item I wanted to speak about in detail. Hopefully, I'll get to that in a fair amount of detail. But yeah, why AI for education, right? So AI seems to be the popular trend, and for good reason, right? It is a very powerful tool, and we need to look at how it can be used in education as well. So it really transforms how education systems work. We're going to look at how that's going to happen, heightens the competitiveness of institutions. Again, the cases will make that clear. The results show that fairly everyone who's used AI in their institutions vouch for it very highly. There's no second thoughts about whether AI is good for education or not. So let's dive into what are sort of what are the tools that AI sort of offers to educational institutions. So natural language processing is an interesting field. Um, so what to start off with, what is artificial intelligence, right? Like you have uh, so the goal is basically to get computers to perform human like tasks, right? By that, what I mean is we need computers to recognize spoken language. We need them to make sense out of images. We need them to make sense out of say data. We need them to take decisions on their own. These are tasks we typically would not associate with computers of the past, but that is the goal of artificial intelligence, where we need computers, or we sort of aspire computers to perform all these tasks which require typically require human cognitive skills. So natural language processing, in very simple terms, is being able to understand spoken language. Although most of us take for granted that you are very well understanding what I'm speaking, the same for a computer is a very, very challenging problem. As you can imagine, we might be off grammatically, we have different accents, we have different speeds at which we talk, the way we enunciate words are different, And even after it recognizes the words, it needs to make sense out of what we are saying. So that is an incredibly hard challenge for a computer to undertake. But we've made great progress in this, and the further slides will show you what are the sort of products that use natural language processing. Few of the tasks NLP does, like I said, the gist of this being it needs to make sense out of spoken language. It may be in terms of speech recognition, which converts the speech to text. It might be to understand the sense, to understand what I'm saying, to understand names and locations I might be using in terms of the name and entity recognition. It might be sentiment analysis to sort of gauge what sort of a mood I'm telling about, what sort of a mood the speaker is in, or what sort of is he saying that in a sarcastic tone or an angry tone or a commanding tone, and so on and so forth. So these are the kinds of tasks that natural language processing helps achieve. This is very famously used in voice and personal assistants. I'm sure all of you have tried this, have tried talking to personal assistants on your cell phones, or if you have these home assistants like the Google Home Mini or the I think the Amazon Echo, it's called. Many of these where you talk to Siri or Alexa or the Google Assistant, all of them use natural language processing to make sense of what you're telling it. So it not only understands the words you're speaking, but also makes sense of the sentences that you're constructing. This is an incredibly hard challenge for a computing system, but we've gotten very far. Um, very quick gist on how this can be used in an educational setting where I mean it's not uncommon for me to see my cousins nowadays who are much younger than I am to be doing their homework and then come up with a question, or they have a question and they just give a shout out to Google Home Mini and then or Alexa and then say, okay, Google, what is the capital of Libya? Something like that. So very powerful tool in education. I've seen this employed in videos in classrooms as well, where the professors and students having a healthy discussion. An unanswerable question comes up where no one's really sure what the answer is. Why leave the question unanswered? Just have a Google Home. Just have some sort of a voice assistant in your classroom. Ask the question, get the answer, and move on. Right. So these are small things we take for granted. We just brush under the carpet, but can be very easily resolved when we put our minds to sort of solving these small pain points. Um, but very powerful technology where you can literally speak to your assistants and it will help you out. Chatbots. I have a very interesting anecdote to share from my time at Georgia Tech. So one of the professors who was in fact working on artificial intelligence constructed a chatbot. I'm sure all of you have had exposure to chatbots. They're typically uh, they're voice assistants, but over text. You can think about them as like that. It's sort of a weird phrasing, but you see them on websites where they assist you with help. You type in something and then it replies back, and so on and so forth. So these are chatbots which give automated replies to texts. A professor at Georgia Tech, he went on to create an online chatbot for a course of his, and he did not tell the students that it was a chatbot. He just said, we have a teaching assistant on this course, and it's called Jill Watson, right? And most of the students didn't think of the possibility that this was going to be an artificial intelligence powered uh, chatbot. The questions students would ask questions. I mean, usually they're very rote questions where they either ask what is the deadline for assignments, what sort of what is the curriculum, what sort of project deadlines, is there an extension, and very normal questions, which are easy for a chatbot to answer. And throughout the semester, famously, it so happened that most of the students did not even realize that that chatbot wasn't actual person. So this was a huge win, and this chatbot was created using the IBM Watson platform. So in the interest of all of you who are wondering, right, so AI is a powerful tool, but without technical knowledge about how AI works, how am I going to even implement any of this in my, say, field or my institution or my company? The answer is simple. There are many platforms out there which give you these very drag and drop and kind of a connectivity of these subsystems, which you can do with very less effort, if you know what if you know what you really want out of the platform, um, without knowing what happens under the hood. So that was the point I want to drive here. IBM Watson is one such platform, with relatively less effort and not understanding, and even without understanding the under the hood functionality, you can hook up sort of these blocks and create chatbots and other artificial intelligence powered applications. So that was a really powerful tool which is built, and you can imagine how good it was, where most students didn't even realize that there wasn't a person at the other end. So like most of you might know, who are using, say, social media platforms like Facebook or Instagram, all of your content is curated for you, right? They have a model of what are your likes, what are your dislikes. They know far more than they should know about us. They have so much data that they are able to personalize the content which comes up on your news feeds. So similarly, artificial intelligence can be used to deliver personalized content, to equalize the differences in skills, interests, and the abilities of students. This goes back to the issue of inclusion, which I feel very strongly about. We're not all create. I mean, in the sense that our abilities, our skills, and our interests are all different in a school setting. So having a generic curriculum, a learning content, and a pace is not often optimal to all the students. So this sort of a personalized learning content driven by AI can help people pace themselves better, understand better, and in general cope better with the education they're receiving. Uh, so LinkedIn Learning does that. I think I already mentioned that. So these cases give you just about how AI is contributing to education. I have another slide here which sort of underscores what we can expect in the future in terms of the changes. I'm sure we'll have chatbots. We will have which will sort of score essays in the future. They already score trivial things like, say, multiple choices or um, uh, uh, digital sort of these uh, non-textual um, answers. But if it's numerical, it's easier. But if you have textual uh, stuff you want to score, then it becomes slightly more challenging. But I'm sure we'll have that. There's something called spaced interval learning, where you develop an app which helps people keep track of the learning process and reminds them to repeat the lessons they're about to forget. So again, this is going to be highly personalized per person, depending on their cycles of how much they remember and forget and how often that happens. Student feedback and professor assessment is incredibly important in every institution. So while nowadays they do hand out online forms or even forms printed out, I believe that with the help of chatbots and other things, the interactions can be made sense of. Like if you have certain interactions with the student and professor over the course of a semester, I think artificial intelligence will have the capacity to know what kind of a rapport or how was the effectiveness in the communication, so on and so forth. Uh, Personalized content assistant to students is something we've talked about already, and I don't think that let's highlight that. Uh,
You have last 10 minutes, Anuchan.
no, Professor. Let me just quickly go over this one case, and then let's open it up for questions because I think we can skip the other parts. I will be sharing the PowerPoint with all of you, so in that benefit, I think all of you can have a look. But this case study is particularly interesting in the sense that it sort of brings together all that we talked about, and about how one professor has sort of really embraced technology and education in all the different forms we talked about. And yeah, so this is Professor Kellerman, who works at University of South Wales in Sydney. One thing Professor Kellerman has done is he's built a question bot, essentially a chat bot, capable of answering questions on its own or delivering videos of past lectures. So bot can flag student questions for teaching assistants to follow up. So one interesting trait about AI is that more the data you give it, more it learns. So this learning concept is very unique to AI. Exactly, I mean, very similar to how humans learn, the artificial intelligence models also learn. So more the data you give it, more it gets better. So he built a question bot to do all the rote tasks. So if any of the professors here are sort of as averse to roast as averse to rote tasks as Professor Kellerman was, then question bot is an answer for you to explore. It keeps getting better. That is one thing. He also employed out of the box systems like Microsoft Teams, exactly like how we were doing now, to foster collaboration. Kellerman also used the Microsoft Power Platform to build the question bot. He built so this Power Platform is again a very sort of a drag and drop and connect the block sort of a building platform, which is very easy to use without understanding the under the hood applications. He also used Power BI, which is again another Microsoft product called Power. It's called Power Business Intelligence, where you have these dashboards, right? I feel these are also particularly important for, say, managers, directors, say, heads of departments, where you build these dashboards, and you have these data pipelines. So people are feeding in data, and you have this one very nice looking dashboard which succinctly summarizes all the metrics that you care about, right? And these are updated in real time. So this might be in terms of, say, your professors' research contribution, how happy students are, how are students doing in their in their internals, their exams, what are the sort of activities happening. So this sort of a dashboard is really helpful, typically very widely used in industries, can be built very easily, like I said, very drag and drop kind of like a issue, like a system. And working with AI and machine learning, I'd like to conclude by saying that you know where to start. You sort of have this one small pain point. You start small, right? Like you start with, say, installing one voice assistant in your classroom, or building one dashboard for which will sort of summarize all the metrics that you care about. And then you slowly add on your capabilities over time. It is important not to get overwhelmed by something fancy like deep learning or a question bot. No one is going to be able to build a question bot right off the bat. You start small, you build say a small dashboard, or you employ voice assistants, or you use those game design principles. You start small, and then iteratively you can, I'm sure all of you are smart enough to sort of derive upon those ideas and develop from then on. I have a few more slides, but I'm going to stop now, take a couple of questions.
I think we can open the forum for the questions. And before we start, thank you, Anuchan. That was really great, and we could, get thorough flow of whatever is happening in technology and education. And you took us through a lot of things which are happening presently. Probably when you were talking about something like AI, virtual reality, or I mean I think you made it to the simplest when you were talking about virtual reality and augmentation, and then again when you were talking about artificial intelligence. That was something nice, and you brought us back examples which most of us could connect well. And I
Thank you.
think like the session was really interesting. We didn't get to know how the time went. So we have this last 4 minutes, and thank you so much for that. We are now open for the QA. I see a question by Kalyani Suresh ma'am. Ma'am, if you are there, please unmute and go ahead for the questions.
Sure. Thank you, Jeevaratna ma'am. Mr. Anuchan, it's very nice listening to you, other than, although you're very far, the kind of the presentation you gave and the videos were very informative. We did have a session on artificial intelligence, but I should tell you yours was more impacting on us. I have a couple of questions from your slides. One, what would be your suggestion of bringing up all institutions at par in implementing artificial intelligence for the effective future education? That's one. And the second thing is on the impact on AI, artificial intelligence. If, like, for example, you were talking about the bots using the questions, the assessment between the professors and the students. Right from day one, when children are associated with schools, their first exposure to schools, we as mothers send them to schools telling that there's a bonding already established, or we pitch in for that bonding. Where would that human bond be if at their last leg of education is completely missing? What kind of students would we be sending out into society without any human bonding? It's good to have artificial intelligence, but till what extent should we let it be? Because if today, even though I'm working as an assistant professor, if there's any student coming up to me and asking, I would really like to take that question too, because it gives me a learning experience for myself while answering the question, as well as looking at the satisfaction if the student is completely satisfied, which is completely missing when the bots do that. And more so on their assessments part, I do understand artificial intelligence would give us more time, but are we missing anything important in this play? That is my second question. And the third one, just as an information on the bot, Sophia was one thing, which completely took away all the things, the way you were telling that in a fraction of a second, it could understand what mood the speaker is. So these are my three things, not taking much time. Would really be helpful if you could answer this. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thanks for the questions. Hope I recollect all of them. So the first one was about how institutions can adopt AI, right? So to that, I would say, starting off, like I would reiterate what I already said before in my slides, in that starting off with a very ambitious project of building a question bot with very fancy capabilities, where it will eliminate all your rote tasks at once, will be an uphill battle, and it will feel daunting and overwhelming. So I would suggest start off with something like a Power BI platform, or say a simple idea like this, right? Have a dashboard. Where do institutes now track all the metrics they care about in a single place and have visibility to that in real time? I am not sure. If that is not the case, then build a dashboard which will sort of show you in terms of, say, graphs, or in terms of tables, where all of these metrics are put in place. Sure, there's not much of artificial intelligence there, but there is a lot of data which is being processed there. There are pipelines you can just sort of connect the blocks. It's a very block-based sort of a model. You can connect them, and then you can do something fancy using AI to sort of process and make sense of that data in more meaningful ways. So in summary, just start small, and then I'm sure you yourself will get direction to know what are the or how it can be improved and what are the pain points. The second question about the social interaction.
Sorry to interrupt you. Sorry, that was for the second one. And I repeat my first question. What would be your suggestion of bringing up all institutions at par in implementing artificial intelligence in the future education? What would you suggest? How do we bring artificial intelligence into all institutions at par? You working for Microsoft, you are able to foresee, and you are suggesting us that how to make our lives more easy using bot applications, starting with small dashboard. Correct. How do we implement that into the institutions, bringing them at par? Not bot dashboards per se, but how do we implement artificial intelligence, and how do we bring institutions at par?
Kalyani ma'am, if Anuchan sir presents, I would just like to present my take on this, like because I am an academician and I worked with NIT for some 6 years, and we did see great efforts. Like I mean to say, this was somewhere around 2000 to 2005 when I was working. So it is something like which it should be a collective or what you call it as a participative efforts made by the institutions. And today, I think with a lot of technology changes which is happening, I think it is like slowly we are catching up with that. And as when I think Anuchan was talking about dashboards, he was talking from the technical perspectives, because dashboards are the things which will make things visible for us and helps us in decision talking from that perspective. I think with this, I will just pass over to Anuchan. Probably he can give his perspective. Yes, sir.
Just one thing. Madhukar Saxena this side. Can I add on to this thing, Madam's query, please, if it is possible? Can I?
Yeah, sure. Go on.
Yeah, actually, I think that the routine task and repetitive things we can go for dashboard and bot, and
yes,
for
yes.
interaction, students and human touch we need to bring into the classes. We need to have something gamification and videos, and through that we can go for interaction and other things in the classes. I think this is my view about this thing.
Okay.
So typically, what I've read before, and I personally believe this as well, that with the interpersonal relations and the bonding that you were talking about is definitely important in a younger age, where studies have shown that kids below say fifth or sixth grade are more distracted and they need a more structured environment to learn. So no one's sort of debating eliminating going to school for these age groups, right? And it always happens with discussions with AI that even though we are nowhere close to eliminating in-person education, people are often threatened by it, right? So people say, oh my God, if AI comes in, then there won't be any in-person. But the point being that we are so far away from that reality that we don't have to worry about that just yet. For now, let us just embrace the powerful tools and the technology and the benefits of AI in our lives as much as possible, uh, while not thinking about the absolute worst case scenario where all of us sit at home, not interact with anyone else, and sort of become these impersonal and social beings. So we are very far off from that reality. We don't have to worry about that just yet. For now, I would say let's just focus on how best we can make use of these technologies. I hope that answered your question.
In fact, I think we'll be having more freer time to interact with more human beings.
Sure, yeah, that's a very valid
If
point.
that's properly put to use, then definitely yes, Mr. Anuchan, you did answer. Thanks for that.
Sure, yeah.
And what I feel is, rather than looking at it like a threat and making it feel that it's, AI technology is more luxury oriented for people who have got money, loads of money. There should be a lot of awareness that needs to be spread around, that it is for our own use and to make time more available for us. That piece is missing, and I think it should be from everybody's part, whether it's government or institutions. We are the ones who need to give that awareness to our next generation.
I think Kalyani ma'am was trying to say that we all, I mean, lot of awareness needs to be created, and it should again be like initiation and known to everybody, like what is the benefit the education sector is going to reap. Yeah, thanks for that, ma'am.
Exactly.
And I
Yes.
have,
Thanks, ma'am.
yeah. Ma'am, your voice was dropping on and off, so I just took the liberty of going ahead and conclude your, statement. Thank you for that, ma'am.
No.
And
Yeah. Thank you for that as well.
yeah,
Thanks.
Dr. Seema Sambargi ma'am wants to know any free source platforms where we can start small and learn along the way. Ma'am, I would just like to share, few portals, and I'm coming back again with some links during the network sessions or sometime in the later sessions in the chat box. We do have like a lot of things like what Anuchan sir mentioned, Coursera and YouTube is there free. But what I have observed is over a period of time, all this will change to a subscription model. So we need to make use of, something like a typical Indian scenario offers and schemes. We need to keep a tab of these things. And Swayam is one portal. Then again, if you need certification, it comes with a cost. But learning like on edX without an honor code, without a certification, you can just at least complete the course for the sake of knowledge. These are the free resources which are accessible. I think with that we have answered all questions. Yeah, there is one question from Atul Bhargava. Don't you think it will hamper creative thinking? I think you can just give your concluding remarks on this, Anuchan sir.
I'm afraid I don't understand the question. What will hamper creative thinking?
I'm Atul.
Oh, sure.
Yes,
Go on.
yes, please
So
go ahead, Atul.
what I mean to say, whatever the data we put in to get the benefit of AI, that is based on the input which we do with the system, and we get output of that. But where is the creativity? It is good for the routine people. It is good for the say in case of education, routine assignments and routine lectures and evaluation process. But what about the creativity? It will definitely, when we get everything prepared, answered. So what I feel that the students will stop thinking about it. That was my point basically.
Right. And I guess I see the concern, but I'd like to differ in the sense that
Okay, good for masses. Good for masses, not for classes. Up to
right.
some extent. Up to some extent.
For sure. Like I agree that we'd have to find a balance. We wouldn't obviously let the computer system or the AI do all the work for us, and which it is not even capable of doing for that matter, right? So the current state of AI uh, is I wouldn't call AI being creative, even though there are cases, very interesting scenarios where you have artificial intelligence systems creating paintings, very beautiful paintings at that. Uh, Even though they can be creative, most of the implications of AI, which we talked about, and the applications are not to do with replacing innovative, creative decision making that humans are capable of, but it is to assist you with the tasks which are rote, which do not need much creativity in your day-to-day lives. and which will only improve your decision making. So say something like a question bot, or like a chat bot, or say using Teams for collaboration, or you having dashboards. None of this is replacing things you would do creatively, right? They're just replacing things which are rote, which you would rather spend your creative time on. Say researching about something, thinking about creative ideas, or say something like a dashboard is going to help you with decision making because you have an accurate picture of what is happening. So I would argue that this is again one of those cases where we shouldn't be misled by the worst case scenario, where we think about a reality where it all our creativity has now been sort of sucked up by the artificial intelligence system, and it is doing all the creative work for us. We are far, far away from that reality. We don't have to worry about that just yet. For now, all we are proposing is, let's use AI to make our day-to-day tasks more efficient. That is all we are proposing right now.
Agreed, sir. But I have just one concern. I'm just concluding in one line. Suppose if you give me some questions to work out based on your teaching, and
right.
I know that the answers are already available with someone to whom I can approach. So the mind process of thinking, that will hamper. My concern was that only. No, I'm not saying it is going to replace human being. My concern was that if I know that I can get easily these answer of your questions, I will not use my brain to explore that. That was the only concern. That's it.
So to answer that, I think we do have all these challenges because of COVID. But then again, I think, whenever the questions are given, you can also set up certain procedures where it needs to be completely, the own thoughts. And there are systems, because we do set up examination, a process where we will pick up keywords to understand whether it's been copied, and you can very easily make out, like, was it a copied text, or was it typed, or was it thought. So we do have certain scenarios where we can identify uh, whether it is there. I mean, the creativity is there from the point of the person who is putting it as an original thought or not. And the second thing is, I feel as teachers we shouldn't withdraw and try to give them, because most of the times it is like, we give them questions where it is easy to find answers. So it should be blended, or it should be integrated with something where they go back, experience on their own, come back and put it across. So I think that's where even we have great challenge. Agreeing with whatever you said, I also want to mention that we do have great challenge in coming days when we are doing this together. Thank you for that question, sir.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting. I just wanted to say that I have my contact outlined here. Uh, I am no subject matter expert in this field either. I'm learning too. If any of you have any interesting thoughts, or you'd just like to get in touch with me, here are my details. I'm sure the professor is going to share with you these slides as well, as far as I understand. So you can pick up my contact here. Hit me up on Twitter, LinkedIn, or Gmail, and we can continue this very interesting discussion we have had. Thanks for having me here. Really, really great sort of sharing my thoughts, listening from all of you. Really great experience. Thank you.
Yeah, we thank Anuchan sir for taking his time out and making this session quite interesting and interactive. We thank on behalf of Acharya Bangalore Business School, and as a part of AICTE ATAL FDP program too. Thank you, sir. I think it should be late for you by now, and having finished your work, you have joined us, and I think this is what technology can help us staying connected beyond time zones and border zones. Yeah, thank you so much, sir. With this, we conclude this. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.